Yep.
Right. The countdown begins. Hey, Kelly, excited for this session as always. And I know we're talking this session specifically about, in my opinion, one of the like tier one conferences. Like RSNA is like one of those ones that, when we do conference strategies and planning for a lot of clients, this one's always up at the top just because the importance of it, right? And with 40,000 people attending and heading to McCormick Place every year in December, like there's a lot of excitement around RSNA. So obviously that's why we wanted to unpack a lot of strategic things that we're doing with clients to drive results for RSNA. And I know I just love attending RSNA. I know you love going to as well, Kelly, just because obviously a lot of the network things that are happening, the cutting edge education that's going on, obviously. But, over the last couple years, like what I'm really excited about is just the technology of AI and how AI is really, and it's always been prevalent at RSNA. That's why I like going to it. But there's also, it's kind of overwhelming too, right? Because when you think about it, there's CME classes, there's all the technology that's happening for AI and those sessions. And then there's like 80 different sponsored sessions. So as a marketer, like when we strategize, it's always, we need to be kind of creative about some of these tactics because there's just so many people, there's so many exhibitors, right? And like, how do you stand out? So today's session is we're definitely going to walk you through a variety of different tactics and strategies using digital advertising, but then also video, right? And so Kelly, I don't know if there's any intro that you want to give for RSNA. I know it's one of your top tier clients or conferences as well. Excuse me.
Yeah, it is. And it's as it being a top tier conference, you really can't just shoot from the hip. Planning is going to be absolute key and paramount, which is why I'm glad we're doing the LinkedIn Live today. We have several months until RSNA, and it requires a lot of prep, as a lot of our marketers who are watching today understand. But the really, I think, exciting thing about the radiology space is AI. And every year it continues to get more and more interesting as to the impact this technology is having. So this year obviously is no different and even more than years past.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we've got a lot to unpack, and I was so excited for this session. I had to dig up my RSNA badge from last year just to get the radiology mindset going here. But let me get this up on the screen because, again, I know we've got a fairly detailed session to kind of go through here. So Kelly, if you want to kind of kick us off, just to kind of give like, hey, who we are and give us kind of a quick background for those people that are watching.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a digital marketing agency. We focus 100% in that healthcare, life science, and med tech area. We specialize in helping clients really maximize their investments with conferences. We work with a lot of clients that do attend RSNA, Tempus, Hologic, iCAD, Agilent, Ferrum. So we are very well versed in not only this conference, but also this radiology space as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. And just, as far as, if you're on this LinkedIn Live, some things that you're probably very well aware of, but challenges that are inherent when you're trying to reach out to radiologists it continues to be extremely challenging to get your salespeople in front of radiologists. And that, of course, is not just unique to the radiology area, but in the healthcare professional area as well. Additionally, when you're putting money down for your booth and sponsorships, those rates only continue to go up. So, especially when you're looking for, tactics to really kind of be the tip of the spear. Also, leveraging social media, continues to be a very competitive area. You have to do good quality content to be able to make results. So, leveraging social media to try to drive attendance probably isn't going to get you to where you need to anymore. And then webinars just, I think webinars have been done so often that there's a lot of competition out there, and they're not really producing many times the results you need. You have to put spend behind webinars now. You can't get away with just doing a webinar. So conferences are that much more important to make sure that we're really maximizing the cost. You're doing a lot of planning, especially for these high tier one type of conferences.
Yeah, and what really stands out to me in these challenges are a couple things, Kelly, that you mentioned. One is obviously the sellers. This started long before the pandemic. Radiologists and majority of all HCPs really don't want to interact with sales at the very beginning. So especially if you have a new device or a new solution, and you're trying to grow the adoption of it, it becomes really challenging to get in there. So, from the marketer standpoint, they've got more of the burden, right, to influence and educate these people. And to your point, like, you can't just do the traditional social media anymore. You got to layer in some really good targeting, right? You got to use first party data. And we're going to talk about that here in a moment. And as far as like the educational aspect of it too, it's all about, kind of like hacking the attention of the prospect, getting them in the funnel. And there's a lot of things obviously that we'll unpack today, specifically around video, that kind of helps that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And here, I kind of teed it up for you already here, Kelly, but if you want to run through what today, I kind of stole a couple of these bullets, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. No problem. Reinforcement is good. Frequency is good. Some of the things we're going to be covering today are strategies that are really going to help you amplify. If you've got, not only is this a tier one, but if you have a major product launch coming up, you've got data coming out, it's even more important. So we're going to talk through some strategies to really help you increase awareness pre-conference as well as post-conference. We'll also look at tactics to help get people into your booth, and more importantly, the almighty grail, which is that post-conference conversion. So we'll talk about some tactics to really help ensure good attendance and people coming by your booth and your events. And then we'll also look at how to really go in and be a little more strategic about capturing footage at RSNA that you can then utilize for not only post-conference conversion, but more specifically helping you with additional marketing for maybe people who aren't able to attend that conference. And then also just how do we get very strategic about going in and really engaging these radiologists and radiology professionals. And now with technology, with NPI targeting and things like that, it's really becoming quite impactful in being able to leverage a digital marketing component. And then one of the really great things about NPI, we're going to talk about what does it look like when you go in and you run an NPI campaign, say prior to a conference, and what are some of the metrics that you get. And that's really where it gets really interesting because you're able to get in and take information from people who are reacting to your campaign and hand it over to your salespeople and have them work with continuing that conversation with those people who already showed interest in your company and your product. And so, awesome. Jason, I was going to say, go ahead and jump into the NPI stuff, because that's just absolutely amazing. It's been probably one of the more exciting technologies that we work with here.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the transition, Kelly. So essentially, I'm going to walk you through how the NPI targeting works. If you're watching this, you're probably familiar with NPI numbers. So it's the National Provider Identifier. This is first-party data. So we're working with clients essentially across many different HCPs. We're obviously, for this one, and we're focusing on radiologists online. I know it sounds kind of creepy to reach HCPs online, but as Kelly mentioned, like, it's a challenge, right? On the sales side and the marketing side. So why wouldn't you leverage the power of this NPI data? And so there's definitely strategically a couple ways that we work with clients. Some clients have a database of like Definitive Healthcare or like Acuity MD. And so they're extracting those NPI numbers, and then they're leveraging that for maybe just their typical marketing outreach. We can leverage those numbers to either grow the adoption of your device, your solution, your diagnostic test, whatever it may be, to radiologists. And if you want to like just like use it as a brand new acquisition. That's kind of one road to take when it comes to strategically using these numbers. The other way that we work with clients is leveraging like existing customer data. So if you have NPI numbers and you're leveraging those already, and you're maybe not going down the digital front, maybe it's just email outreach or sales outreach or just some sort of marketing outreach. So it's great to use like billing information, CPT codes, ICD-10 codes. So we're leveraging that to re-engage the audience, right? So there's two different ways. Either think about it as a like brand new acquisition style campaign, or let's say, certain providers are only using your solution, a few times a year, and you want to increase that frequency, right? That's the other strategic thing that we can do to continually get in front of them, right? And the messaging obviously would be different. So if you have non-users, right, that's a way to do it. And then if you have just a limited amount of customers that are using it, how do you increase that frequency? And this is how it essentially works. So what we're doing is we're targeting specifically radiologists, if I can get it right here, digitally. So as they come online, and just think about your normal media consumption, right? So news, sports, weather, travel, finance, really any lifestyle site. So there's millions of websites out there. And so we're aggregating with those with our partners. And this is the most precise targeting that we have available. Again, this is going to be only reaching those specific NPI numbers or billing codes. And as they go online, we can serve these ads cross device. So think about, again, I know myself and I know Kelly, you probably have like 3 or 4 different devices you toggle with. Well, HCPs do the same thing, right? So we may start out on a mobile device, but the technology's smart enough to know like, hey, here's your desktop, here's your laptop, here's your tablet, right? And that's the great thing about digital. One, it's precise. And then 2, it's going to be cross device. And the other great thing about digital too is we optimize as we go, right? These are longer term campaigns, usually 6 to 12 months. It definitely takes several months to get that audience warmed up. And then once they're warmed up, we can start really analyzing the metrics on the back end to say, hey, let's look at the creative, right? Do we need to change anything? How's that CTA? Where are we driving the traffic to, right? On that website or landing page, does that sync up with what the ad is saying, right? So there's definitely a lot of different factors. And again, this is digital. So a lot of times what we're doing for creative is we're doing like an A/B test, right? We want to see which creative wins, because a lot of times we think some, CTA is working, but maybe it's not once you actually launch the campaign. So that's the beautiful thing about digital.
Can I just interject here? So this is one of the trends that we've been seeing a lot with the NPI targeting is, I think initially a lot of companies were going out and using those other data providers like an Acuity or a Definitive. But what the trend that we've been seeing very successfully is clients who are already using that NPI code, like you're talking about, Jason, now have ability to go in and drive adoption. And it's almost like these companies, these docs already know who they are because they've had marketing, they've had maybe a rep trying to call on them. But this is just a great way of kind of taking almost like a warm lead list that is your customers who have purchased once or twice, and then reinforcing. And we are seeing amazing results by people going in and by marketers going in and utilizing these NPI codes of their customers. It also can allow you to kind of connect the dots. So this has been kind of just a fascinating trend and very effective one that we're seeing in the NPI space.
Yeah, it's great. It's, Kelly, when you and I first started digital advertising just a few years ago, right? We didn't have this level of sophistication for digital and data, really. And so now, it's one of those things where we can be so precise. And this is a perfect slide to kind of talk about that precision. Is specifically, I know we're talking about radiology here for radiology marketers for RSNA, but again, tier 1 conferences that we go to as well that are in the oncology space, we can target medical oncologists, we can target surgical oncologists. So essentially, if you're planning for other conferences outside of RSNA, and you're targeting, because a lot of clients have multiple modalities, right, that they're reaching multiple HCPs. So if you're watching this and you're like, hey, radiology is just one of the targets. Well, good news is as long as they have an NPI number, then we can target them. Or if you have a CPT code, or if you have some sort of claims or billing data, we can leverage all that information.
Yeah,
So,
and you could really get into those subspecialties too. So obviously radiology is a big space, but you could go in and we can target those subspecialties, which is just amazing that you could
yeah,
get so granular.
yeah. And usually with complex solutions, in this case, there could be multiple layers of people that we're trying to influence. And again, as long as there's an MPI number, we can influence all of them.
And can I just
Yeah.
interject one other thing?
Yeah.
So when we talk about MPI numbers, just kind of a good rule of thumb is when we're, especially when we're dealing with a customer's NPI numbers, we typically are looking at about 12 to 1500 as a minimum. I think that's probably good information. So when you go back and you look at your NPI numbers from your customers, that's typically the level at which we can then go and start to do an NPI targeted campaign to them.
Yeah, great point, Kelly. That's kind of best practice, right? If the audience isn't quite big enough in that range, then it gets real challenging to reach them. But what we do with our data partners is we have a match rate. So what happens a lot of times if, to your point about the strategy of, hey, we want to influence, these customers currently that are ordering from us, but we want to increase the frequency. We have a match rate, and typically our match rate is like 98%, right? So it's really high. So the level of us being able to actually reach the target audience based on the data is really high. And I don't personally, I haven't seen anything less than about 90%. So that's great, right? It's that match rate. We want to make sure that we can actually target the people that you want to influence for your campaign. Part of the campaign strategy, as you can see up here on the slide, is retargeting. So we always work with clients to understand where we're driving the traffic to. Does it make sense for that page? Is it a product page? Is it a solution page, right? Where are we driving them to? And then tracking pixels are part of the campaigns. And so what we want to be able to do, and this is the marketing game, right, is how do you increase frequency, right? Retargeting does that. We're all familiar probably with retargeting, but we can do this on the HCP side. So let's say if you do have a product page that you're already driving traffic to, and then you layer in this NPI targeting, all the traffic that's going to that page, for example, we can retarget them, right? That's one way to do it. You don't have to do it like that. If you just want to retarget the people that we're targeting with the NPI numbers, we can isolate that, right? But if you're already spending a lot of money to drive traffic to a certain page of your website for a product page or solution, right? It's a great idea to just continue to add people to that retargeting pool that you're already trying to reach out to. All right, Kelly, now we're going to get into the really good, juicy stuff here when it comes to the data and the metrics and what we're able to provide. So since we are providing that MPI level data up front, we can provide some really granular, actionable data that, to your point earlier, that the sales team could really take advantage of, right? So every single month, we have a report that we share with clients that's specific and showcases first name, last name, the address, the title, obviously the specialty, if there's multiple specialties. And then if there's some sort of hospital affiliation, we have that as well. So typically the marketing teams like salivating over this because they're going to give it to the sales team. So again, this is actionable information, right? So the sales team knows, hey, they saw the ad, they went to the website, they may have clicked on it, right? And so they've seen it, right? And if it's one of those campaigns that maybe it's non-users, right? That's a great way for the sales team to warm them up. So if you have an inside sales team or an outside sales team, right, it doesn't really matter. You can have them, go in there and warm that up. The other thing is if you're doing this more on how to increase frequency with current customers, you're obviously still using this data, right? Because you can follow back up with them, and especially if there's already a relationship, right? So if a certain territory sales rep knows, hey, this information, Dr. So-and-so in Tennessee, right? He saw the ad again, but he hasn't ordered in 6 months, right? There's a great reason to follow up because they saw the ad, right? They saw your brand again and they saw your solution. So a lot of actionable information that comes out of these ad reports. Kelly, anything that you want to mention on the MPI level reporting?
No, but this is kind of where the rubber hits the road with NPI targeting is the ability to have this type of a report to
Yeah.
work in tandem with your salespeople.
Yep. And then this is just a quick example. Obviously, it's a spreadsheet that we send out. Typically, what clients are doing is they're uploading it to their CRM and then dicing the data based on the territory of that certain rep. But again, That's the information that you get from an MPI level report. The other type of reporting is more just campaign ad reporting. And again, this is definitely helpful, right? This guides some of the optimization that we're doing on the back end. And so it's going to break down per ad unit. If you're targeting multiple HCPs, it's going to break that out. If you've got multiple creatives, it's going to break that out as well. So it can get very specific. It'll show impressions, click-through rates, what your CPC is, those sorts of things, which are all great. And then again, it's got the different ad sizes. And so depending on what sort of KPIs we're measuring up front, like we can start optimizing to this as well. But this is a traditional, this is the type of campaign report you normally get minus the NPI number data, right? But now we're providing that next level reporting that has the NPI data. And plus you have your traditional, campaign ad reports.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to see an example of that, just ping us. We'll kind of, at the end of this, we'll talk about how you can reach out to us, but we can show you some sample reports because it's really interesting to see the type of data that you can get. Obviously, we'll keep our reports anonymous, but I mean, it's really interesting to see what kind of data you can provide to your salespeople.
Yeah. So when it comes to these types of campaigns, the execution, again, these are running across lifestyle sites. So news, sports, weather, travel, finance, anything that's lifestyle related. And these are the different ad sizes. Again, think of this, it's cross device. So most of the campaigns we're running 5 or 6 different ad sizes. So mobile would be smaller ad, obviously mobile device, mobile screen, desktop be different, tablet, and so on, so forth. So you kind of get the picture of that. There's not a lot of real estate for the banner ads. So typically what we're consulting with clients on, we have a creative service team here. It's kind of like a billboard, right? So if you think about a billboard, there's a key marketing message, there's an image and maybe a logo, and then a click-through rate, right? A click-through, right? So you want to figure out, hey, what's that CTA, right? To drive people back to your landing page, website, product page, whatever it may be. And then again, we can run A/B testing. We can change creative pretty frequently. Typically what we're doing is running the first set of creative, again, for a couple months, because we want to build the data, right? It takes time. Most products like sales cycle is several months. And so you kind of want to think about this too, when you're running an ad campaign like this is, we wish we could drive results the first week, right? But ultimately, again, this takes time, right? And so whether it's a non-user campaign, like brand new acquisition, and they've never heard of your brand or your solution, it's probably going to take even longer, right? Because you got to build that authority in the marketplace. If you're, reaching to customers that you've done business with before, those tend to ramp up a little bit quicker because they've seen the brand, right? They've ordered before. So a lot of times they're just getting in front of them again about maybe you've got certain data, maybe there's an update to the product, right? Maybe there's a testimonial that you're trying to drive people to. So there's a lot of different ways that we can use this creative strategically.
Yep.
All right, skipped up too many.
Can I just back up real quick? I'm so sorry. I just had
a
top. So one of the things that you need to keep in mind is when we're talking about right now, we're talking about NPI display. However, there are different types of ad units that we can utilize, like rich media. Another word for that is high impact. You can use video. But what I will tell you is the click-through rates are typically higher for this type of display. Typical display is what, a click rate of 0.02 to 0.03. We're seeing much higher click rates with the NPI targeting. And that's even with display. But when you look at maybe incorporating other ad units, that's also another option too.
Yeah, great point, Kelly. Those high impact units definitely tend to kind of stand out. And so if you have, groundbreaking data, you've got a brand new solution, or you've got an update, right? We see this all the time where, hey, we want to make a big impact at whatever conference. So those high impact units do a really good job and kind of stealing the show online to get in front of those people. All right, we're going to switch gears. We're going to focus specifically on the conference for RSNA and how you can use advanced targeting to reach those radiologists specifically at RSNA. So if you have some sort of, as I was mentioning, like there's 80 sessions, right? Sponsored sessions. It's kind of mind blowing at RSNA, as a marketer. So it's real challenging. How do you stand out? Geo-fencing is a way to do that. And so specifically what we do, we put a virtual fence around McCormick Place. And the way the targeting works is anybody that enters that virtual fence inside of McCormick Place, based on their mobile phone, right? This is all just GPS location-based targeting. So it's a little bit different. We don't have the data up front like we do with the NPI targeting. This is a little bit more not as precise, right? Because we don't have that data up front. What we do have is the GPS location of that mobile device, and it's accurate within 10 feet, right? So as long as that user at the conference, that attendee, as long as they have their location-based app services open, and guess what? Like 99% of us have it open, right? Because we're trying to order the Uber, right? The Lyft. We're checking the weather in Chicago in December. Is it going to be snowing or raining or what's going on, right? So typically those location-based services are automatically opened. So strategically, there's two ways we're using this for geofencing. One is to reinforce what you're doing at RSNA. So again, if you had a sponsored session, if you've got a product launch, if you've got, just a demo, right? If you're just trying to drive traffic to your booth, we're collecting those mobile IDs. We're running that creative right during those 4 days of RSNA. The other thing that we do is it's like a post-conference follow-up tactic, right? This is the omni-channel approach, right? And you want to take that because we want to retarget those same users, those attendees at RSNA 30 days afterwards, right? So it's a great way to reinforce not what you're doing at the conference, right? Because that's gone. They're back at their hospital. They're back at their practice, right? So we want to give them a different message, right? It could still be about your solution, your product, just we're driving them to maybe a different part of the website. So if you're trying to drive people to your events page during the conference, that's great. But afterwards, we would drive them specifically to a different part of your website or different part of your product page, depending on what you're marketing at RSNA. So it's definitely a great tactic to stand out. Same kind of ad reporting when it comes to number of clicks, number of impressions. The one kind of negative thing about this is we don't give you that first party data information to know which specific HCPs are interested, right? We don't have that information because we're not using that data up front. So that's kind of the difference between the NPI targeting versus the geofencing. Again, the geofencing, I've had this question come up a few times. I'll address it here. They are like, hey, so do they get like a text alert, right? I know you're using the mobile phone. So they don't get a text alert. We're just using the mobile phone as like an identification to say, hey, this person is within 10 feet, right, of RSNA and McCormick Place. But the ads are actually banner ads served across those different lifestyle sites that we mentioned. So
yeah, and I'll just jump in here and add,
yeah,
one of the real benefits of the geofencing is really post conference, because as you know, when you go to conferences, you're busy, you're running around, you're definitely getting and seeing those ads. But really the value here is that post-conference conversion, which is so absolutely vital. And this is really where it's strong. So you'll get clicks at the conference, but where you get a lot of clicks, which is where you really probably want them anyway, is that post-conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. And then as I was mentioning, just to recap, new sports, travel, finance, and this also serves cross-device. So of course we start the campaigns on the mobile phone because that's where we get that information. It's anonymous information against just the mobile ID number. And then the technology is smart enough to know once that physician gets back to their home office, right, the hospital, the technology knows which other devices they're using. So this is definitely a cross device. And again, it's a way to kind of stand out digitally. And this is a case study that we wanted to showcase. Specifically, it's for a medical device. They were actually trying to target cardiologists, and they used the same strategic campaigns of using those NPI numbers. So we ended up targeting 31,000. A lot more cardiologists than radiologists out there, but essentially we're able to target those cardiologists online several months before these conferences. And the way we executed this was, hey, we know there's 3 marquee cardiology conferences that come up every year, right? So how do we kind of preempt our solution in front of these conferences? So we ended up running several months in advance before the conference. And then we switched the creative during the conference, as we kind of mentioned about the geofencing. And then the post-conference would be different creative as well. But we were able to really engage these 31,000 cardiologists online. We ended up delivering about 750,000 ad impressions. The goal was to get actually a low cost per click. We wanted to get under $10. That was the metrics from the client. We came in at $7.23. We also generated over 2,000 clicks to the website, which is a 0.223%, which the average is a 0.1%. So we were definitely above that. And then the other thing, the geofencing definitely helped them stand out at those conferences, which again is the goal. So, this was a combination of those MPI numbers and then also the geofencing. And Kelly, I don't know if there's anything you want to mention else about that case study.
Nope, you nailed it. It was a really great campaign.
Yeah. The other unique opportunity we have, and this is kind of in my mind's the way I think of these digital out of home or DOOHs. These campaigns are kind of like top of the funnel, right? It's like a billboard, but it's video, right? So I'm sure you've seen these, Kelly, and I know I have several times, and we've executed these campaigns. Chicago's a great place for a strategy like this. Other conferences, other venues may not have as many like LED screens, but with downtown Chicago, right, there's a lot of them. Like obviously major oncology conference, ASCO, leveraging this strategy as well, because most people stay right along the water, along those different hotels. So either they're walking right back to the hotel, they're walking to dinner, or they're walking to lunch. So these digital out of home boards are really nice because it's a great way to stand out, hack the attention of your prospect. It's definitely trackable. If you want to put a QR code in there, that's a great way to measure that. But it's along those lines, but I think a little bit more targeted than like sponsoring the Wi-Fi or sponsoring the sanitizer or the lanyards. RSNA, I don't think sells the sponsorship, or maybe they do. I don't know. But some of these conferences are kind of crazy when it comes to sponsoring the Wi-Fi for like $100,000. So this is a great alternative that you can leverage and still get some good metrics, right? And you can still drive some traffic. But these would be in those high traffic public places in like Chicago, San Francisco, Washington. I'm just trying to think of the other conferences that I've been to this year that are like, I've seen a lot of these screens, which are nice. So, executing something like this is, hey, if you have, a new device in the marketplace, this is a great way to stand out. If you've got an update, if you've got a new product launch, if you've got some major announcement, right, this is a great way to kind of stand out doing the digital out of home.
Yeah. And I love the QR code, being able to finally measure this type of advertising.
Right. There's good ways to execute QR codes and there's bad ways, right? And so this is definitely a good way to do it. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to get out of digital and we're going to get into video, right? And so video is a great opportunity at RSNA because obviously, as we already talked about, there's 35, 40,000 people. There's a lot of competition, right, to get in front of these people. And then also with 80 different sessions, right, sponsored sessions. So typically what we're doing is we're collaborating with our clients to understand, hey, do you have customers that are going? Do you have KOLs, right? Is there certain product theaters, workshops? And even if your leadership's going to be there, the great opportunity for video and having our crew there is you can really maximize those opportunities instead of us traveling to 5 or 6 different locations to, get those customers, those KOLs, right? We typically spend a day in the booth. And I know we've cranked out a ton of content for clients. At some point, I think we had like 6 or 7 different customers coming through, capturing a lot of quick sound bites and footage. The great thing about RSNA 2 is we can be in the booth, so we can capture, your device, your modality, your instrument, right, your solution in the booth, and just booth action too. So there's some edge and vibe to that, right, Kelly, when it comes to the in booth. We also do a lot of stuff with hospitality suites. So if you want more of a controlled environment, you don't want to be on the busy trade show floor at RSNA, that's totally fine. We can also do it at a hospitality suite. But as I was kind of mentioning here, there's like 80 different sessions, right? So there's innovation theaters, there's lunch and learns, there's AI theaters, and those are great, by the way. There's corporate symposiums. There's a lot going on, right? So if I'm an attendee, it's like you got to pick and choose, right? You can't go to all these. And even if you did, it would be just information overload. You wouldn't retain anything. So just like when I plan out my schedule, I'm like, okay, which signature events am I going to go to, right? Because there's only so many. So this is a great way to video record your session if you have any of these theaters, lunch and learns, AI theaters, and then drive people on demand afterwards, right? So I like to think of this as like, you're protecting your investment because you just don't know what attendance is going to be like. So it's a great way to protect that investment and then use that asset. So if you have a marquee, innovation theater you're just trying to drive a lot of adoption or just viewers, right? It's great to protect your investment and then have that on-demand version post RSNA.
Yeah. And I'll just add one more thing. One of the things that our clients love, obviously, as a marketer and attending and trying to, you do all the planning, you have to be there and have your events people. If you have events people, get the booth there, get everything set up. One of the nice things about this is we come in, and if you're having a major product launch and you have a lot of things that you want to be going on, a lot of different video capture, we have a producer and producers who are masterful at this, that literally can take this part off your plate, and allow you to kind of manage it from a higher level. So typically, a 1 to 2 day session with our video team, we have a producer that handles a shoot schedule, aligns all of the interviews, the time where they're going to be. So we are extremely organized and can take that off your plate. And that's a lot of coordination. People, unless you've been involved in it, you have another full-time job in trying to get this all coordinated. So we take that off your plate and make it run smoothly, and you get to walk away with a lot of great content, very inexpensively produced, because we're able to kind of scale and capture a lot of that video at one time over 1 to 2 days.
Yeah, great point, Kelly. It's definitely turnkey. And we know event marketers and just marketers in general, it's like crazy time during these conferences. And so if we can help a lending hand to have our production team and producer obviously work with the interviewees, that's great. Easy execution for sure with the clients. And I'm not going to go through video examples, but if you're interested, there's going to be a link in the comment section that you can check out. It's specifically for RSNA. So a lot of the things that Kelly and I are discussing today when it comes to NPI numbers and executing video at RSNA, that landing page will definitely answer a lot of your questions, or feel free to reach out to us if you have anything specific. But these are just a couple of the things that we do on the trade show floor for videos. And this is the third and final, obviously kind of strategy and tactic that we wanted to walk through. And it's really about, maximizing engagement with the follow-up strategy. So, a couple things that we talked about was specifically leveraging the NPI numbers and then also the geofencing, right? So as we talked about strategically launching an NPI number campaign before the conference, and then during the conference, you could still run those NPI numbers, but then also geofence the conference as well. And then you're going to continue. So both of those digital tactics are something that you'll be doing post-conference already, right? So the other key thing here, so that's kind of the digital component to it. And we're going to break down a quick campaign strategy, like little screenshot that we put up here. We'll kind of walk you through how we think of these things for, pre-conference, during conference, and then post-conference. And so those badge scans that you're doing, this is the other thing, is that email nurture campaign, right? We've seen a lot of those emails come out, Kelly. They're kind of generic. Hey, you stopped by our booth. It's great, right? They're kind of templatized, which is still fine. It's hopefully getting the job done for you. But if you're trying to really engage these prospects, whether it's for new adoption, or just re-engage them, right? Video does a great job in stimulating that conversation afterwards. So if we are capturing, or if you just have videos that maybe you haven't leveraged, or that you're thinking about leveraging, like this is a great tactic. So if you put a thumbnail image, right, of that video inside of your email, I think a lot of people are more attentive to actually click on that email because they know it's a video, right? And so a lot of times we are strategic with our thumbnails with clients to say, hey, that's a key opinion leader, right, in the industry. Let's put him on the thumbnail because that prospect may be willing to watch that video, right? Because it is a peer-to-peer piece of content. So strategically think about your email nurture campaigns. And I know as a marketer, you've got a lot of stuff going on, but definitely it's a great way to stand out by incorporating video, right? You can't put the video inside the email, unfortunately, but you could put that thumbnail. So if you have any of those sponsored sessions, if you've got an innovation theater, if you got, anything on the sponsored front, product theaters, anything like that, that's a great way to drive on demand afterwards. Because as we mentioned, with 80 different sessions, right, it's really hard to stand out.
Yeah. And the challenge is obviously, those inboxes after post-conference start to fill up, and it really is important to do something to stand out, and everybody likes to watch video. So that's a really great, or most people like to watch video. I'm biased, but anyway.
Yeah. Hey, Kelly, do you want to bring us home? I know we're at like 39 minutes ish right now. So do you want to wrap us here? And there's these next few slides.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking to, if you've got product launches, something really important, and you are going to be exhibiting at RSNA, let us know. It just reach out to us. We've gotten very good at this, especially with RSNA and ASCO and a lot of these other higher profiles. But if you're looking to make a bigger impact, here's kind of what next steps should look like.
Yeah. And here's the example, that sample campaign report,
Yeah,
Kelly, pre to post. So
yeah.
I don't know if do you want to walk them through it at a high level or do you want me to?
Oh, go ahead. You're on a roll.
Yeah, keep it rolling here. So as we mentioned, this is kind of how you would layer this in. Those different tactics that we mentioned. I know we mentioned a couple of them. Warming up the audience is super important. Whether you have a new device, new solution, or you're just trying to re-engage that audience of radiologists. So you would definitely. I mean, at this point, it's hard to warm that audience up because RSNA happens in December, right? But as you plan out next year, right, you would want to definitely warm them up. Right now, really, the opportunity is during RSNA. So we talked about the geofencing. Some things we're doing for clients too at RSNA on the video front is creating a lot of videos, right? So if you have your KOLs, your key opinion leaders, even if you've got your leadership there, are subject matter experts, right? It's a great opportunity to capture a lot of video inside the booth. And then as we mentioned for post-conference follow-up for RSNA, you can still leverage those NPI numbers, right? So that could be one way to kind of execute this coming off of RSNA, right? So you kind of build that awareness at RSNA. And then right after the first of the year, like right after the holidays, right, that's when you start hitting up that audience again with those NPI numbers, because hopefully they're still remembering kind of what happened at RSNA, even if it is after the holidays and New Year's, right? That's a great way to re-engage them again, because RSNA, right, only comes up once a year. So my recommendation would be start those NPI numbers campaigns earlier. And then, right, and as you get closer to RSNA, you have a lot of data to understand which physicians are the most interested based on those NPI numbers.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Kelly, do you want to mention this I think you already kind of covered that.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this, but if you're interested in scheduling a call and talking about what a strategy might look like or how we can maybe help maximize, reach out to us on LinkedIn, or we can send you a link to our RSNA splash page with all of our helpful content and tips and so on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that link is in the comment section on LinkedIn. So if you want to check that out, feel free to. If there's any specific questions around RSNA and our availability for our video crew, let us know as well. But other than that, I think as you plan out, RSNA final steps, we hope this information has been valuable.
And we'll see you in Chicago.
See you in Chicago, hopefully in good weather. We'll see. All right. Bye for now.
Bye.